Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to talk all about budgets or spending plans, how you can create a budget or spending plan for yourself and stick to it. If you are learning more about personal finance, one of the first things that you are likely to hear from other people is that you need to have a budget. It is important to know how much you plan to spend or would like to spend and save and monitor that so that you can track your progress towards your financial goals. Making a budget usually means looking at your monthly income and then thinking about how much you want to spend in each category and writing that down line by line until you have $0 left of your monthly budget to spend. $800 for rent, $300 for groceries, $200 for transportation, and so on. This is a typical budget. When I first needed to be more mindful about my spending, I did sit down and write out a budget and had a specific amount that I was supposed to spend in each category and tried to be really diligent about tracking all of my expenditures and every place that I spent money. In my last video, I talked about how I set aside money automatically at the beginning of each month for my savings goals, for my retirement investments, before paying any bills or spending any money. The reason that this works really well is that it gets all of that money out of my checking account at the beginning of the month so that I can't actually spend it throughout the month. This is the opposite of what most people do. Most people pay their bills, spend some money, and then if there's any money left at the end of the month, they'll use it to set aside for savings goals or to pay down debt or to contribute towards retirement. This doesn't work because most people get to the end of the month and there's no money left. There isn't anything left to save for a vacation or invest in their retirement or pay down debt. And they find that this happens month after month. In effect, this means that these people are not paying themselves. When I set aside money for my savings goals or for my retirement investments at the beginning of the month, I am really investing in myself right away before I give my money out to anyone else. I am paying myself first. When you pay yourself first, you are creating an environment of scarcity. You're setting aside money for yourself first, and then you're forcing yourself to live on what's left, and there's not that much left, so you're forced to make some decisions about what's most important for you and for your survival. However, you may not know how much money to start automatically withdrawing for your savings goals or investments. So I recommend just starting by writing down where your money goes for an entire month. I know that this seems overwhelming, but it is a great place to start because you're not making yourself cut back just yet. You're just adding the positive habit of simply noticing where your money is going. You could do this in a notebook, in a note on your phone, or you could open an Excel sheet and track it there if you're feeling really fancy. I respond to some journal prompts each night before bed, and so I find that it's easiest just to track my expenses in the margin of that journal every night when I go to bed. I'll just write down the amount and then a quick description of what it was. So like $25.62 groceries, or $12.17 dog food, or $52.76 clothes. Then each weekend I go back through the margins of that journal and transfer all those expenses to an Excel sheet where I can organize it a little bit more. Especially if you have no idea what you've been spending or what is realistic for you, it can be really helpful to just track where your money goes for a month. I know that a month seems like a long time to track every single expense, but it's only a month, 30 days, to put yourself on a path to financial freedom. Trust me, it will be worth it. You can do anything for 30 days. Once you've tracked your spending for an entire month, I would encourage you to sit down with all of those expenses and start to categorize them so that you know how much you've been spending in each area. I would include categories like rent or mortgage, utilities, your phone bill, internet, insurance, a car payment, transportation, groceries, clothes, pet expenses, etc. Once you've sorted your expenses into categories, then total each of the categories up so that you know how much you spent in each category. Then I would add up all of the categories you listed to come to a grand total of how much you spent over the course of the month. Once you have that number, then I would subtract all of your expenses from your monthly income. Ideally, you'll have money left over at the end of the month and you haven't spent it all. So if you've got a positive number left after you subtract your expenses from your monthly income, great. You're at the perfect place to start, and this would be the amount that you could start setting aside automatically at the beginning of the month for your savings goals and your investments and any other way that you want to pay yourself first. If this is you, that's awesome. Go you, because you're already spending below your means, below your monthly income. However, For many of us, after we subtract our monthly expenses from our monthly income, we might notice that the number is 0, or maybe it's even a negative number, which means that you're spending at or above how much you make a month. I totally get it. I have been there. It is no fun when you have no money left over to start paying yourself first. That's why tracking your spending for a month without changing anything first is so important, because it might take seeing those totals for an entire month to really realize that you need to make some serious lifestyle changes in order to get your financial situation under control. Maybe you need to reduce your spending. Could you get rid of your cable or find a cheaper phone plan? Could you call the internet company and negotiate a lower rate? How can you spend less on groceries or gas or entertainment or clothes? All of those are ways to reduce your spending, but you could also increase your income. Could you negotiate a raise at work? Could you get a part-time job? Could you find a higher paying job? For most people, you're probably going to need to do a little bit of both. Cut your spending and increase your income. So with all of that in mind, now is when you can sit down and actually create a budget or a spending plan. Now that you know how much you've spent in every category and what is realistic for you, you can start to write each category spending out line by line. Write down realistically what you think you can commit to spending in each of these categories. Do not make any drastic cuts. If you spent $400 on groceries last month, do not slash that budget to $200 in the coming month. That's not going to be a sustainable change, and it will probably cause you to revert back to your previous spending patterns. I would much rather have you cut out $25 a month and cut back each month until you get to a number that feels sustainable for you, than cut your spending in half for 1 month and then go back to what you used to be spending because that feels too hard. We're looking for change that is going to be sustainable and long-term, so make those changes slowly. So once you've decided on a monthly budget, you need to try it out and see how it goes for a month. One popular way to stick to your budget is called the envelope system or the envelope method. This method is really great if you find that you are likely to overspend with credit cards. This method involves setting your budget and then going to the bank at the beginning of the month to withdraw all of the cash needed for each of those categories in your budget. Each category would have an envelope. You would have an envelope for groceries that has $350 in it. You would have an envelope for transportation that has $200 in it. You would have an envelope for entertainment that has $150 in it. You get the picture. So when you go grocery shopping then for the month, you take money out of your grocery envelope and you spend it each week until that money is gone. Once the money's gone and out of your envelope, you are done grocery shopping for the month. Of course, you can always borrow from other envelopes, but then that would mean that you have less money for whatever that envelope's purpose was. So you can borrow from the entertainment budget, but there's not any more money to refill the entertainment budget if you want to spend that money on groceries. This method would really help you get a good idea of how much money you spend in each category and what is realistic for you. It would also keep you from overspending because there's only so much cash in the envelopes. Even if you're borrowing from other envelopes, at some point the money's gonna be out. Alternatively, you could just continue tracking your spending as you did last month, but commit to stopping spending in a certain category when you hit your budget limit. This takes more self-control than the envelope method because you have to stay up to date with tracking your expenses and always know how much money is left in each category so that you can commit to putting your credit card away once you hit that limit, rather than just seeing that there's no cash left in your envelope to spend anymore. Each month, review those expenses and keep cutting back slowly month by month until you get to a point where you have some money left over at the end of the month. This will be the money that you use for those savings and investments, the money that you use to pay yourself first. Once you get to that magical moment where you have some money left at the end of the month so that you can start paying yourself first, reflect back on your rich life list, which I talked about in a previous video and I will link above, to determine what you want to use that money for. Do you want to use that money to become debt-free? Do you want to save money to travel internationally? Do you want to build up your emergency fund until it has 6 months of expenses in it? Do you want to start contributing over and above your 401k match so that you're saving more for retirement? Reflect back on that rich life list to decide what to do with that money that you're going to use to pay yourself first. This can look different season to season. Some seasons you might be paying off debt, while other times you might be saving for an international trip. That can look different. And it really doesn't matter how much money you have to pay yourself first. It's really about setting those habits so that when you're making more money, you already know how to pay yourself first. And the habit is established so that you can manage higher amounts and higher incomes once you've got them. So once you get to a point where you have that money to pay yourself first at the beginning of the month, jump back to my video on automation and make sure that this money is being set aside at the beginning of the month so that you're paying yourself first. So I basically did this whole process for years in order to get to the point where I'm at now. I first just tracked my spending, then I created a budget that felt realistic and I just tried it. Each month I just kept evaluating my spending and cutting back and adjusting those budgeted amounts until I found something that was comfortable for me. I've also changed careers a few times to make more money or taken up side hustles and part-time jobs to make more money. I have paid off almost all of my debt on a salary of less than $40,000 a year, so I know it is possible because I did it and you can too. I hope that this video gave you a better idea of how to create a budget or a spending plan so that you are able to get to a point where you have money left over to be able to pay yourself first. Once you have money available to be able to pay yourself first at the beginning of the month, that is really when you can start making steady progress towards your financial goals and your richest life. Please let me know what questions you have about budgeting in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful. If you are interested in seeing more of my videos, please hit that subscribe button so that you are the first to know when I release a new video. That is all for today. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.